Revelation by Liz Lochhead is a poem which explores a couple different sort of themes which are connected. Reading this poem, I could identify, uh, like I said, a couple different branches which all sort of seem to align in the same kind of way. I'm not exactly sure which one of these is the most important, but I can identify them for you. And what we're going to do today is we're going to essentially look at the poem through these kind of connected lenses. And primary, I'd say maybe the primary one, if I had to identify one, could be something like fear of the masculine or fear of men, fear of man, something like that. Um, the connected theme with this would be sort of like something like the awakening of the uh, you could say like female like sexual experience, something like that. Another connected theme would be something like loss of innocence. And essentially, what you're going to see, okay, in the poem is that the speaker essentially is becoming aware of, um, like I said, the masculine, okay, the masculine, which is represented in the form of a bull, which is very kind of traditional, I guess you could say. For a long time, historically, the bull has represented male energy, it's represented the masculine, like I said. And the poem is called Revelation, which obviously a revelation is something that, like some knowledge or information, knowledge that is, like the word says, revealed. So the idea is that the person has an experience where they gain some knowledge. And the thing about revelation is it's not necessarily an experience that you asked to have. So oftentimes a revelation will be something that happens to a person without them necessarily thinking about happening, wanting it excuse me, wanting it to happen. And the experience itself can often be unpleasant. Like if you read the different stories about, revelations from the different religious texts, many times the person who experiences the revelation, they have some kind of, many times the person who experiences the revelation, they have some kind of struggle with it in terms of like it's not a pleasant experience, but it's more like a painful experience or something which is shakes them. Okay. Um, So in this text is something similar that happens in that the speaker is going to experience a revelation which she doesn't ask to experience, and she's going to experience a revelation. She's going to now learn about the existence of, you could say, male energy, masculine energy, of men in a way which is not like how she understands like boys. That makes sense. So it's sort of like a loss of innocence. She's experiencing here a loss of innocence and the realization of I guess you could say her own sort of sexual nature or something like that. Yeah. It's like a lot of things are sort of tied up. Like I said, at the heart of it seems to be something like realization of or loss of innocence plus something like fear of the masculine or something like realization of the masculine, something like that. Yeah, that's the lens we're gonna look at the poem through. Okay. So, okay, so the poem begins, okay, I remember once being shown the black bull when a child at the farm for eggs and milk. And again, you could see here right from the start, okay, I remember once being shown, which indicates obviously that the speaker herself didn't choose. Okay, she didn't choose for this to happen. So it's not as if it's not necessarily something she wanted to experience, but it's something that was sort of forced on her, that was sort of pushed on her, which would be a reflection of how essentially children have their innocence, in a sense, taken away from them. It's not as if it's something that they necessarily choose. It's that as they start to grow up, their eyes will see different things, which will make them realize that there's more to the world, excuse me, and there's more to them than just their like childhood imagination or version of the world. And what she gets shown, what she gets taken to see is the black bull. And again, like I said, the bull represents the masculine, okay, in the classic sense, it represents masculine energy, male energy. The fact that it's black, excuse me, the fact that it's black represents the intensity of the male energy and the masculine energy. And also from the beginning, what it does is it lays out the idea that for this young woman, young, I guess you would call her young woman here. If she's losing her innocence, I guess she'd be like an adolescent or something, like teenager or something like that. Um, or on the cusp of teenage years, something like that. Okay. Anyway, so for um for her, the masculine is something which is frightening. It's frightening. So the idea of black here is the color black is most, classically associated with darkness, okay, like the nighttime. And what we are also gonna get a sort of um window into here, okay, is sort of like, in a sense, you could think of it like female desire, okay, or a woman's desire, as in the basics of female, what women are fundamentally, you could say, attracted to, something like that. And part of that is the idea of uh, being attracted to sort of like, you could, classically it's identified as like the bad boy, bad boy. All that really is basically is it's the man or the energy which is sort of dangerous enough to, which is dangerous, huh? It's dangerous in some way. And why is that? It's the idea is that the man is dangerous enough to be able to protect her, defend her from predators or other dangerous men, something like that. Yeah, that's probably the reason why women in general find the bad boy attractive. Yeah, it's also the reason why, excuse me, if you look at many kind of classic examples of this figure, the bad boy figure, many of the time they're always wearing black. If you notice, they're always wearing black. It's like how they dress. It's like the cool color. Why is it cool? It's cool because he has the ability to use force, and he's not a villain because he's able to use force on behalf of protecting, say, the woman, like that. Okay. Any case, what this is like raw masculinity. That's what she's encountering, and it's like too much for her yet because she's like too young yet. She's not experienced this before, so it's raw masculinity. It's too much, and she is frightened of it. She's frightened of it. Okay, that's the sort of thing that's going on here. Okay, when a child at the farm, because she was a child when this happened at the farm, for eggs and milk. And again, right here you have the, excuse me, right here you have the connection to, again, the female, you could say like female sexuality, something like that, which is again eggs. It's like female reproductive, the female reproductive system, yeah, eggs, and then obviously milk for children and eggs where the kids come from, yeah, obviously. All right. Okay, good. Anyway, they called him Bob. So this is like, you could think about this as like woman. This is like man, yeah. Or masculine energy, female energy. That makes sense. Okay. Good. Anyway, they called him Bob as though perhaps you could reduce a monster with the charm of a friend name. So again, to her because she is so young and innocent. Um, and it's a good window into, I guess, what it might be like for a girl when she starts to grow up. Uh, this is how she sees. This is how she sees men. Yeah, this is how she sees or feels the masculine energy. It looks frightening to her. It looks frightening to her because it could hurt her. Obviously, it could damage her. But the charm of a friendly name. So calling it some kind of name is not something which does anything to reduce her fear. She can feel that this thing is dangerous. She can feel that this thing is different from her, and um, that frightens her. Okay, like I said. Okay, at the threshold of his outhouse, someone held my hand and let me peer inside. Now you can see the language has slightly changed. And in this case, someone held my hand. So at the beginning, it was a case of sort of the revelation was being sort of forced on her that she didn't really want to know, she didn't want to see, but she was sort of pushed into it happening. Here, she's being guided towards the bull to see it. And the fact that it says, let me peer inside, now shows that she's beginning to become like curious about it, which again is why I said she's probably, the age she's describing here is probably like a teenage, yeah, like early teenage, not like young child, because obviously for a kid, they wouldn't, um, like a young kid, none of this would experience would happen. Yeah, he'd just say, "Oh, that's a cow. Yeah, what's that cow doing in there?" Right? They wouldn't have all these thoughts and things. So it's like teenage, early teenage, something like that, on the border of um losing their innocence. Essentially, that's the idea. Okay, so now she's becoming curious again. So she's her own sort of adult nature, you could think, or young adult nature is starting to awaken. Okay, anyway, excuse me. At first, only black and the hot reek of him. Then he was immense, his edges merging with the darkness. So again, you can see, okay, that you can see that it's sort of very it. The way she's describing this is not like it's not it's not rational or it's not logical in terms of like descriptions like scientific or something. It's sensory type of descriptions. It's feelings looks like feels like this. It's like which will give you a good idea of her experience with this bull is like overwhelming in terms of sensory it was like a sensory overload for her in that she's not thinking rationally or logically. She's just experiencing uh, the moment. She's experiencing what it's like being overwhelmed by different emotions like fear, curiosity, and all of that. Yeah, like that kind of thing. Okay, this is smell, yeah, hot reek, smell. And then he was immense, his edges merging with the darkness, just a big bulk and a roar sound to be really scared of. Excuse me. Trampling, clanking, tense with the chains jerk. You can hear the noises, it's onomatopoeia. You can hear the way the bull sounds, clanking, trampling in that, yeah. A big bulk really to be scared of. And it's quite interesting. You could say that though this is describing the sort of young female, I guess you call like adolescent, something like that, a teenage uh young teenage girl, something like that. You could say that um there are like many women, I believe, who still see men this way. They still see men this way, even when they grow older and they sort of go beyond being, you know, a teenager or a young teenager. They still view men with a lot of fear, and they still view men with a lot of anxiety, like the way that she's describing. Um, and this is a very good poem. It's a very good insight, I guess, into this sort of uh, into the you know female perspective. In that, you know, often, you know, women will say something like, a woman needs to be scared because, you know, a man could hurt her badly, something that they need to watch out. It's constantly being afraid. They describe these things, type of things, and we kind of, you know, a lot of times we just like brush it off in that, and we're like, okay, overreacting and all that. Most men are nice guys. Most men are not the bull yet. Most men are nice guys who get rejected or whatever. But the point is, I think we have to admit at some level fundamentally, probably I would say probably maybe most, if not all women, have this um, image in their mind of this like young girl with the bull, have this image in their mind, at least at some level fundamentally, and that would make sense, you know, even if you think about it evolutionarily, or if you think about it in terms of just anthropologically, in terms of basically our history as human beings. In that, one of the primary one of the primary dangers for any woman, especially young women, would be obviously a dangerous man. Obviously, um, now I make it a point to say that it's extremely important to recognize that most men are not dangerous. Okay, most men are in danger themselves. Yeah, if something happens. But the point stands. Yeah, the reason, you know, why do we still have a fear of the dark, or why do many people still have a fear of monsters, dragons, or you know, horror movies? Why do those type of things scare us? Because men and women, because at one point in time, one lion, even though if lions are a rare thing that happen, one lion could kill, you know, the whole family. One lion could wipe out an entire tribe, even something like that. Yeah. So these type of things, they might exist in us in some kind of like emotional memory at some kind of emotional level. Um, so it's important to recognize it. I guess I would say it's important to recognize and it's important to understand. Yes, understand. This poem's a good sort of way into understanding that. Um, yes. Okay. Anyway, so his eyes swiveled in the great wedge of his tossed head. He roared his rage, his nostrils gaped like wounds. So she's not seeing a bull, that's the important thing. She's not really seeing a bull. She is experiencing she's experiencing, you could say, intense masculinity, and it's overwhelming for her. Okay, even though the bull isn't really a danger to her, he's like tied up and stuff, and he is being restrained, he's being held back. But to her it's so overwhelming that she is frightened by it. Okay. Um In the yard outside, oblivious hens are female chickens, they're the mother chicken, picked their way about. The faint and rather festive tinkling behind the mellow stone and hasp was all they knew of that black mass, meaning the bull. So the hens, excuse me, you could think of the hens as representing maybe like older women. They're already mothers, yeah, if they're hens at this point. And what that means, okay, is that basically, unlike the speaker, unlike the speaker, the hens have already experienced masculinity. They know what it is, and they have already coupled with it to have their own kids. Yeah, so they already understand it, how to navigate it, and so for them, the bull isn't any big deal yet. The bull is just a bull. Yeah, just basically he's masculine. They understand themselves. They understand he's masculine. We're feminine, and they already have, like I said, had their own kids and things, so they're not really affected by it. Again, it's a good kind of window you could say into the, excuse me, you could say into like the female experience, and how their view of masculinity might change, as they get older, get more experienced, and become an adult, something like that. Okay, anyway, that black mass straining at his chains. I had always half known he existed, this antidote and antichrist. Okay. So again, she calls it a black mass because it is just something which is, to her, it's something which is uh she doesn't understand, and it's all the same to her. Yet she can't distinguish one thing from another, which again would sort of, I guess, in a way, illustrate the idea of for a young girl like this, or even for, I guess, inexperienced girl, inexperienced with men, that is, um for them, they can't distinguish really, like, who is good, excuse me, who's a good man, who's not a good man, um, who is dangerous, who's not dangerous. It all kind of mixes up and looks the same, yeah. It all looks the same. Every man kind of looks similar, and so they have a general fear, you could say, of men, to the point where, you know, even speaking to some of my students, they've told me that if even if a man was to say hello to them outside, that would scare them. I would scare them because again, they have an innate, at least at some level, some innate fear of masculinity because they don't understand it. Right? They're not used to it. They don't understand what it is. They don't understand the good version of it, the not so good version of it, and so on. Okay. Anyway, straining at his chains, I had always known, half known he existed. This antidote, this antichrist. So again, she's now explaining how she knew it existed, as in she had an idea that there is a thing called man, a thing called masculine energy, and she it was there somewhere. Okay, but she had never experienced it. She'd never encountered it in real life, and so excuse me, she's now realizing, okay, this is what that is. This is what that is, and she calls it antidote and antichrist. Antidote is something like medicine, and Antichrist is something like the devil. Uh, More than it's like on the same level as the devil. Yeah, Antichrist is like the ultimate enemy of God. Yeah, that's like Antichrist. Okay, Antichrist, the ultimate enemy of everything good. That's the Antichrist. Yes, funny description. His anarchy threatening the eggs. Again, you see male female imagery. His anarchy is lawlessness, like the bad boy, danger. Breaks all the laws, breaks all the rules, does whatever he wants. Excuse me, that's anarchy. Anarchy is no rules, no laws. Everyone just does what they want. No one is in charge. Threatening the eggs, well-rounded, self-contained, and the placidity of milk. Again, you see eggs, milk, female imagery. And you can see here again, as experiences the bull, the masculine energy, she's beginning to sort of figure out and work out, okay, there is some good side antidote, uh, but there is a bad side antichrist. Makes sense? She's beginning to see, she's beginning to feel that there is some good and bad to it. Um, but because it's, I guess you could call this is her coming of age moment or her awakening moment, her loss of innocence moment. It's overall a frightening experience to her, and I guess in her mind, it's more bad than good. It's more bad than good. And she feels threatened. Okay, she feels threatened. Uh, that remember, eggs are something precious, which if they crack, you can't put them back together again. And milk is something, if it spoils, you can't fix it. You can't fix it. It's like purity. Both of these are representations of the feminine, of purity, something like that. And the imagery is that the masculine energy, in a sense, cracks the eggs and makes the milk lose its calmness and become different from what it was. Become different from what it was. Excuse me. Okay. Excuse me. All right, good. So I ran. So she runs away. It's too much for her. She runs away. She runs away. My pigtails. So she gave her a hairstyle, which is again obviously associated with innocence. Classically, it's associated with young teenager, young girl, something like that. Youth. Excuse me. Innocence anyway. Thumping alien on my back in fear. Past the big boys. Again, the masculine who pulled the wings from butterflies. So again, you can see her uh her view, even at this point, her view of men or the masculine is essentially one of danger. Okay, that they are dangerous, essentially, and they are destructive. They destroy things. And what is it that is mainly would be destroyed? Only my small shaking hand on the jug's rim in case the milk should spill. Excuse me. So mainly the thing that would be destroyed or has been, I guess, destroyed by this incident is her innocence and her purity to some extent. Okay, her childhood self, which is just pure and innocent, has to some extent now been, you could say, polluted or it's being corrupted in some way. I guess you could say that too. Um, and what this is obviously reflecting is the uh thing that will eventually happen when she herself fully matures and um experiences the masculine fully, when she finds a boyfriend or whatever, and then you know what I'm saying? Um, yes. Now, obviously, naturally speaking, this would be talking about the idea of when the woman experiences having kids, um, and eggs and milk. Yeah, you get the point, right? So anyway, the poem again is about the loss of innocence and the sort of also it's about being afraid, being afraid of the masculine. I can't really put my finger okay on what it is. You know, which one would be the main one, like I said in the beginning. But it's like a combination. It's a combination of like loss of innocence, fear of the masculine, awakening of female desire. All of those, yeah, sort of combined in one. Um, yeah, it's a good poem. Definitely, it's a good window into you could think about it like the female experience and I guess female psychology to some extent. Um, Yeah, well, I would say, to any of my female students or any girls watching this, I would say that most men are not dangerous. Most men are not dangerous. In fact, most men are probably more afraid of you than you are of them. Um, yeah. But yes, good. And to my male students, what I'd say is, uh, being dangerous is not a bad thing. I would recommend that you, like I don't know my videos, yeah, anytime I talk about violence or anything like that, I'd recommend that you learn how to defend yourself, learn how to fight, learn how to protect yourself, and then that way you can put yourself uh in the position where should you need to be dangerous, but in a good way, like a hero that has a sword, you can use it in a good way, then you can effectively defend people you care about, yeah, including your girl, yeah, if you have to. Okay, anyway, good.